have some assistant coaching carousel action to keep us intrigued as we watch everything shuffle throughout the month of December. But right now, it is mostly at the G5. Let's take a spin. Come on, Mel Tucker. So on Sunday, we had the 6th job in the American Athletic Conference open. Woo! This is a new world. So Tulsa announced that Kevin Wilson is out. He did not even complete his second full season. Ryan Switzer, that's a name. He's going to be the interim coach for the final game for the Golden Hurricane. And now we've got, let's see, it's Charlotte, FAU, Tulsa, ECU. Who am I missing?
Rice was already, right?
Right. And what's the 6th?
I don't know, but ECU filled up this morning.
Yeah, they've got a board. Yep. They got a board meeting on. They've got a board meeting on Wednesday to make it official. But Blake Harrell, who's done a really good job getting that team now to 7-4 heading into the last week of the season. He was the defensive coordinator, promoted to be the interim coach. What's the takeaway from that hire for the Pirates?
I mean, they changed their coach from an offensive guy to Harrell, and they also changed quarterbacks right around that time. So I will be honest here. It is a little bit difficult for me to figure out how much of this was Harrell and how much of this was the QB change. What is our percentile accountability here? I don't know, but the vibes have been better. Now does this happen if they actually lose to Tulsa? Because they screwed around in that game a ton.
Right.
And
yes.
That was Tulsa's horrid, and it looks like they have high schoolers playing for them legitimately. But does this happen if they choke that away fully? Because they ended up pulling it out. Every team's entitled to have a bad game, I guess. But they're scoring a lot more points for sure.
I've got a counter. Does this happen if Western Kentucky doesn't go on a losing streak late in the season?
What am I missing here?
If Tyson Helton was a candidate for the ECU job and Western Kentucky finished strong, won Conference USA, are you maybe feeling a little bit better about that? Are you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are you spending? Because I think that any of the Joe Sloan or Garrett Riley situations were going to be expensive. And I think that obviously promoting your defensive coordinator, removing the interim tag is among the most inexpensive coaching changes that you can make. I don't know what the contract or what the financial situation would look like with Tyson Helton, but I think that this is a spot where you look at the war chest, you look at what you're going to have to spend. If the vibes are good and you think he can keep your quarterback and enough key players that have been a part of this late season turnaround, you try to save a little bit money and spend it elsewhere.
That makes sense. The Sloan thing is interesting. And I don't have any insider info about this, but given that LSU lost Underwood to Michigan, and the whole power play thing last year with him and Denbrock, and Denbrock ended up going to the Irish, it seems like they're pretty committed to Joe Sloan. And I think Joe Sloan's probably a good coach, right? They've had a lot of problems this year on offense that are likely not his fault. But is Brian Kelly safe enough that he does not have to make some kind of coordinator sacrifice?
Ooh.
LSU? He's got that kind of cachet. Just I'm not making any changes, because they're going to want their pound of flesh.
I don't think beating Vanderbilt's going to be enough to totally reverse the vibes right there.
Probably not. Yeah.
So, because as LSU fans saw last year, firing the defensive coordinator fixed it.
Yeah, you can't. You already did it on defense.
So I'm saying it's sure, if you really need it. I don't know if that's really the problem that you're facing right now, though. But I don't know.
Temple was the other job, by the way. I think we did.
They might be dropping football. I sent you guys the link.
That's crazy.
I would just stick around, and just see what happens. I bet you a lot of other teams are going to have changes. So
the best part, I don't know if you guys watched it. What was it? Thursday night that Temple was playing UTSA.
Friday night.
Their athletic director's in the television booth, and He's in there and they're talking to him about, the decision to fire Drayton. And as soon as he says the words at Temple, we want to compete for championships, Owen McCown takes just like a simple RPO and takes off for a 75-yard touchdown run as he's in the middle of the sentence. And I was like, oh, buddy, you got a long way to go.
Yeah, this is it of those jobs in the AAC. How would you rank them?
I would have had East Carolina at 1.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then,
Even with like the stadium debt and all that stuff, I still think you can win there in a way that. Can you win at any of these other jobs?
FAU.
Yeah, but see, the thing is at ECU, you have like buy-in from a fan base that really wants you to compete. At FAU, outside of Danny, who's at those games?
I wasn't challenging ECU. I was answering the second part, which is like, where of those other schools, where do you think you can win? I think that of FAU, Tulsa, Temple, Rice, Charlotte, I think FAU is the one where I feel, based on geography and even just being able to have the little bit that Lane had it, that shows there's and that was in CUSA. That was in a different conference, but
I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
I'm still going to use that as my proof positive. If I was a head coach trying to talk myself into this, then that's what I'd be looking at for sure.
God, they're all tough. I think it's going to be interesting to see what the market is like for those jobs. Like who are they going to get? I mean, that's why it's not surprising you elevate from within, because I think coaches, like the hotter coaches, will be more willing to either stay as a coordinator at a Power 4 school and stay at that level based on the uncertainty than ever before. And the money's great. So like you can stay where you are and wait for a Power 4 opening rather than, hey, I really want to be a head coach. I might do it. I think, we've seen that move made more in the past. I don't know if that's going to happen as much anymore.
I'm glad you mentioned the CUSA thing, because I went back and looked at FAU because I was talking to a coach, and he's like, even though the American's down this year, the American's still way better than the CUSA. And I think he's right. I mean, that year they were, okay, whatever. They lose Ohio State, they lose UCF. Those are your paycheck games. They win at Ball State. This is 2019 when they won 11 ball games. Wagner, Charlotte, which was that their first year in the FBS, 2019? Probably. Middle Tennessee, which at times has been decent, actually. I think that's for CUSA standards, that is a decent
Couldn't
win.
beat New Mexico State though, dadgummit.
Marshall, Old Dom, which again, was that Old Dom's first year in FBS?
No, they've been up for a little bit.
It's 2017 was their first year?
Yeah, somewhere
16?
around 16. Yeah, 16, 17.
Okay. At Western, FIU, UTSA, and that would have been before Trailer, 2019.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Miss, that was, I'm trying to remember who coached that Southern Miss team, but it might have been when they were really, really bad. UAB, and then obviously the bowl game. So I don't know. Like, I would rather live in Boca than in Tulsa. But as far as ability to win, I don't know how much better they are.
I still think the path is you find South Florida players who went to power conference schools that aren't getting playing time, or their position coach gets fired, or they're not happy being up north, and you just you get the right collection to be able to put together a roster that can be competitive. I think that is a come back home portal team.
Bud clearly hasn't been watching Tulsa King.
That's right. Tulsa's King's great.
You can get a lot done in Tulsa. Yeah.
Are you guys surprised some of these are not even 2 years yet? Like they're making these moves quicker than ever at this level?
Tulsa
you are surprised?
I am.
Tulsa me too.
Tulsa was horrid, but Kevin Wilson is a coach with experience. And now you're just going to, unless you've got something planned, ready to go, that is somebody who could organizationally try to help you navigate the uncertain waters of college football's future. That's
what I would have said about Tom Herman too.
Yeah.
That's why I was a little bit surprised. I mean, clearly they have Ray Lewis lined up, ready to go for the next job.
I didn't think Kevin Wilson made sense when they hired him.
You didn't?
No, I thought it was a strange hire, and I think that they're just kind of moving on from it.
There's a lot of like Brennan Marion speculation there,
given
that he's very connected to like the state of Texas, which is where you have to recruit out of high school for Tulsa quite a bit. So
interesting.
I could see that.
All right, so I'll ask it one more time. If there's a job that might open up What's got your eyes?
I was doing some numbers on like the worst passing performances of the weekend. Rice was number 1 in EPA loss on pass plays. Number 2 was UNC. Obviously, Matt Zenitz had the report that Mac's been telling everybody he's coming back. Does the Boston College result change that, we think?
He's coming back. It's a matter of if they want him back, is what you're saying, right? Like,
well, he
was on
to
Sirius
back.
XM. Yeah. He was on our afternoon show on Sirius, and he was like, you know, that was one Chip reference last week. Like, he was talking to Sally, and he's all in and feels like he can still win. So I think it would be uncomfortable. Like, they would have to fire him, which, Chip, you know better. Think that happened? You think they're willing to do that?
No.
I don't either. So I think he gets one more year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think a loss to Boston College changes that much.
It would have to be a highly emotional crap kicking at the hands of NC State on Saturday. That like home game against an NC State team that's way down from their standard. If North Carolina no-shows in that game in a way that just looks like they were just not prepared to go and compete and everybody's booing them, I don't know. Maybe that could change enough minds in an emotional way, but I do not think that the University of North Carolina wants to fire Mac Brown at the conclusion of this season. Administration, athletic department, I think they would very much enjoy if they did not have to do that. It's like, I don't know if the administration has ever rooted harder for North Carolina's football program than they will be on Saturday, hoping that North Carolina can just beat NC State, finish 7-5, go to a bowl game, probably in Charlotte, sell a bunch of boxes, and just move on to 2025 and whatever college sports is going to look like right now. That I think would be the path that they're probably rooting for.
Another job, I don't know what they're going to do. It's just, I'm just thinking of possibilities. If there are no openings in the SEC this year, does Kentucky create one, knowing that if there are no other openings, this will be the most attractive we could possibly be on the coaching market? We'd be the only SEC job out there.
With the idea of going to get John Summerall and
or
saying,
anybody.
hey, like,
yeah,
you know, you probably, if they run this back and have another nice year at Tulane, he'll have better options. But this year, that's the only option.
Summerall, anybody out there that's looking to kind of just move up. Like, you, of all the top options available, if Kentucky's the only SEC gig available, you're suddenly a lot more attractive to everybody.
Good point.